forwarded. I mean, the forward of this book was written by a man I respect very well, Jean-Paul Sartre, a philosopher, a specialist. That's why what we're going to share this evening will be very interesting to understand the argument of Franz Fanon. Because for this man, his concern is that violence is very critical in understanding the wretched nature of the earth. It is because for him, he looks at violence as a means of to cultural formation, as a means to post-colonial statecraft. That he says that violence should be seen as a means for a realization of decolonization. That violence should be a way for a global philosophical reorientation. This is very powerful. This man is hitting the nail on the head. In fact, he was saying that violence supposed to be a way for the purification that is part of human nature to engage in violence. Whatever man must get, whether in the issue of to realize any decolonization of the colonizer and the colonized, there must be the essence, the sense of violence. I'm just coming slowly. In fact, for Fanon, everything should and must begin with violence. It all begins with violence. Violence is very important to Fanon, just as water is important to fish. Because for Fanon, violence is a precondition to liberation. In an attempt to realize decolonization and the revolution, Fanon argues that violence should be the methodology and the praxis. This is very great because for him, he gave violence to be a precondition that operates in two directions. What does he mean by this? Fanon says that since violence is part and parcel of human nature, everybody lives with violence. And for him to use a methodology to arrive at this, he says that there are two preconditions that operates in this particular direction of the violence. One, he says, is internal to the colony among the colonizers. And the second one is external in the formative conflict between the colonized and the colonizers. What does he mean by this? Fanon argues that the idea of talking about the internal to the colony among the colonizers, that since violence is part and parcel of human nature, among the colonizers, they had element of violence. Take for example, in Africa, these so-called people that entered our continent in the name of colonization, whether they are coming from England, coming from France, any country that are coming from Europe, even among themselves, they had element of violence because you see them struggling among themselves. The country that will be more superior to each other, though coming from Europe, but they are fighting among themselves. Even you know that this partition of Africa today, this thing they did in Berlin that they're able to divide Africa personality is an act of violence. If you know the history of African civilization very well, you know that they have to agree among themselves how to settle violence because they were scrapping, fighting among themselves. Who will take what? Who will now grab the land, the richest part of Africa? It's all out of violence among themselves. This is what Fanon calls the internal violence that is very natural, intrinsic in these people because they are all human beings. He argues that these people, they wrangled and quarreled among themselves because it is a necessitated way of being human. Man cannot do without violence. So-called colonizers that entered our land. Also, we are also living in violence among themselves because man, as they are, is a violent being. And so, since colonizers are men, are human beings, they cannot do without violence. Now, let me go. That one that is actually the main focus of this great philosopher I respect very much is the external concept of this violence, where he talk about the external to the colonized and the colonizers. Fanon argued that violence also was experienced among the colonizers and those they colonized. Fanon dropped a bombshell when he maintained that the very fact of external violence vindicates the humanness of the colonized. Because they should be very careful with us here. Because every human being, as I said, is a being in violence. And therefore, we that are Africans, when we carry out our violence, even towards them, or are living in our violence, they should not be afraid, because we also live in our human nature, as they also did their own. And what is happening here, Fanon says that it should be carried towards them, what he called the colonized to the colonizers. Who are the colonizers? These are people that you know, the Western Europeans people, that we are the so-called, they claim that we colonize. We have to retaliate, because we have to live our human nature, which is violent in nature, towards them as a target. So they should see it as a moral responsibility whenever we are doing something, because this is the way to achieve, to realize our decolonization, only through violence. This is the full stop that Fanon held, that the only way to achieve, be it revolution, be it the idea of the so-called the decolonization, the only process, methodology, praxis is only through violence. As I was saying before, Fanon argues that the violence is a justification of the popular belief and to negate the argument of these so-called people that we Africans are not human. And Fanon says, not only Africans, any person that in the level of this colonized, we say, look at them. In fact, for these colonized to live according to this idea of the violence is an indication that we are human beings. Fanon maintained that the colonized engage in violence, even against the colonizers, is a visible proof of the humanness of all colonized. For him to explain this,
please kindly switch on your microphone. Professor Antoine, kindly switch on your microphone.
these three
The microphone is still on mute.
PowerPoint that you prepared. I don't know what else to do.
Okay, it's better now. We can hear you now. Okay.
Yeah, then better we do away with the PowerPoint, because I don't know, once they connect this, it's affecting.
The problem was not PowerPoint, it was a microphone. You can continue.
Okay. I don't know where you heard last, please, so that I can repeat myself. I was talking about the idea of the Fanon appraising the violence of the colonized towards the colonizers, which he said that it is very, very correct and it is very, very morally upright. that because it is living according to our human nature. When we carry out violence towards those that, because it's a way of living our humanness, actually, according to him. And for him to expatiate this particular argument, he divided the colonized into three categories. One is the colonized worker. The second is the colonized intellectual. And the third is the lumpen proletariat. According to Fanon, in this chapter of the concerning violence, he said that the colonized worker has the responsibility to provide labor work to the colonizer. For Fanon, the relationship of the so-called worker colonized to the colonizer is on the level of the worker providing adequate work services to the colonizer. And he said that these people, this person that have been colonized, but is now at the service of the colonizer, because the colonizer will employ them to be doing some work for them. The danger with these people is that despite they are passing through some exploitation in the hand of the colonizer, they try to remain mute because of the money they are being paid by colonizers. So these people are people that have seen their people suffering, the colonized, or because they are favored, they are taken to the group of the colonizers. Maybe they are doing some work in their place as gardeners, as the cook, as anything driver, but they know that they are being exploited and they are dependent to the colonizer, but they cannot do anything because they have been, in a way, they have been paid some money, and they claim they are getting their living, so they cannot do anything. They are in the hand of the colonized, the colonizer, and then eating from what they give them, they scrap from them. And then they see their own people suffering, but they cannot do anything because they think that the little they receive from the colonizer is enough for their own self and their family. Fanon said that this is very dangerous. Another group that Fanon emphasized among the colonized is what they call the colonized intellectuals. For Fanon, this group is a compromise figure because he claimed that the colonized intellectual, they have been trained by the colonizers. These Europeans, they have been trained by them. And being trained by them, they try to brainwash them. These colonized try to enter into the spirit of the colonizers, to try to be like them. But in actual sense, they're not like them. So even the colonizers know that these people, they're not with them, but they want to use them as tools to achieve their political or their plan they have towards the colonized. So what do? They will bring some of the few people among the colonized and brainwash them and give them all the necessary education from Europe, and they package them and they give them back to the colonized, so that they will indirectly using these people to be achieving their aims when they go back to their people. This is very dangerous for Fanon. And another group that he talked about is what he called the lumpen proletariats, because he says, he borrowed this word from Karl Marx, because he said that these particular people, according to him, are the people that are the disposable population, those that have nothing again to lose because they have seen it all. They have suffered in the hand of the colonized. So these colonizers, so these colonized people are in the slums, waiting to see what nature will give of them. So they keep suffering. They keep passing through different kinds of situations in life. And actually, the colonizers are really afraid of these people. They are really afraid of them. Kule, please, could you people hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah. Okay, because we're trying to connect to the purpose, I see. So this is the problem that we have. And because Fanon is arguing that the most dangerous people we have among the colonized is these people. this the lumpen proletariats, because for Fanon, these people are people that are out to defend their land. They lose nothing because they have gained nothing from these colonizers. So you see them out to fight for their own rights. According to Fanon, he said that the colonized lumpens are the disposable populations that provide nothing to the colonial system. The colonized lumpen are the slum dwellers, displaced people, subsistence farmers. In fact, Fanon argues that the lumpens are ones the colonizers regarded as most useless and must be kept in check because them arising is a call for revolution. And this is the point of Fanon. To achieve decolonization, Fanon will argue that we should not expect it from the intellectuals because these people have been brainwashed. We should not expect it from the those people of the workers because they only fight for their own stomach. Fanon says to achieve to achieve revolution of anybody lumens because they are the, and these are the people that Fanon is calling for to arise and take up the quality and take up the opportunity of freedom fighting towards realizing decolonization. This is very nice because for Fanon, the lumpens are the greatest threat to the colonizers. They are the greatest threat in the sense that, as I've said before, because they always must be put in check. That's why if you see in any society whereby the colonizers are always indirectly or directly ruling the colonized, they're always afraid of these common people because for them, to arise is a stronger approach to fight for revolution. And once they arise, nobody can stop them. You know very well that the event that we saw in Nigeria recently about this NSAS, that if the people had maintained using these anawins, because for them they lose nothing. They wanted to keep it very well for their own children. And then you know that how these things were flouted because they will engage in these people that the so-called intellectuals that they knew that they are not members of the colonizers, but they have been colonized. But because of what they are getting as workers, or maybe the way they have been brought up, they're able to fight against their own people. So Fanon is arguing that for us to maintain a balanced society of humanity in every globe, we have to sustain, we have to believe in these people that are called the Anawims, the lumpen proletariats. According to Fanon, there is a way forward. And the way forward is to achieve decolonization. And to achieve this, it is through violence. And who will do this? Fanon says, the colonized must do this to realize and become self-sufficient among themselves, independent. And who among this category that will do this and do it very authentically? Fanon says, it is the lumpen proletariats, because they are the ones that have not gained anything from these colonizers, and they are the ones that want to remain original and be who they are. Take, for example, in Africa, if you want to realize colonization, sorry to say, you may not be looking from these people that so-called intellectuals that have dined on the table of the white people or the Europeans, because they have been brainwashed and they have been given some promises. Or you cannot be expecting it from these colonized that are workers. Maybe they are drivers or driving the white man, or they are the gardeners, or they are this or that, because of the money they receive from them. But Fanon says, go to the lumpens, the common people, the Anawins. Therefore, Fanon called for equality. He called for equality among people. And this equality is a call for an eradication of the colonization because nobody should lord it over the other. This is the process of decolonization for Fanon. Because for Fanon, decolonization is possible because violence is possible. And the only way to achieve an authentic decolonization is through violence. The language of decolonization is the language of violence. The only language that colonizers should understand from the standpoint of Fanon is violence. And in order to realize a violence by the colonized to the colonizer, the colonized must defeat two challenges. Fanon argues that there are two challenges every colonized must eradicate, must fight in order to become authentic towards arriving at this decolonization. One is a weakness that makes you feel that you are not able. It makes you feel that you're not capable of facing them. Maybe because they are financially strong or they have this or that. Then you think that you cannot do anything. You feel weak. And then Fanon also mentioned what they call inferiority complex, whereby the colonizers say, no, we are like this. This is our nature. He said, arise, arise, achieve decolonization through violence, because that is what affirms your freedom. That is what affirms your dignity, as whether an African or any person who felt that he has been decolonized. Therefore, moving towards conclusion, because Fanon is not somebody who can finish within these few minutes, but just to arouse in you the joy to go and read this man, because really he has hit the nail on the head. Fanon says that colonized violence is always saying no to the colonial system of government, whether direct or indirect. It is saying no to the colonizers, because what made them colonizers over the colonized? What made somebody to be over the other while we are calling for equality? So the violence of Fanon is calling for no to the colonizing. There's nothing that should exist among humanity in the name of colonialism, because that is some person running over the other in the name of selfishness and exploitation. The colonized violence is always saying yes to the possibilities of post-colonial life, saying yes to decolonialism. In this case, Fanon stated that violence against the colonizer has great advantage, which is primarily for a realization of decolonization. In other words, violence for Fanon is morally justified because it is man living his nature and man putting into practices his natural call for survival. Violence is therefore an intertwined task by elimination of the colonial system at the level of imagination, that the neutralization of the superiority complex of the white, of the Europeans should be defeated, to remind them that all of us are equal, that all of us are created, if you accept the concept of creation, in that image of likeness of God. And also it is their intertwined task that remind them that you should eliminate the colonial system at the level of material reality. Those who think that without money, we cannot develop, I am against that. Money is important. But anytime in Africa, there's a problem, people will say, we shall give you sanction, financial sanction. People are there kneeling down, begging them. It's true, money is important, but development is not equal to money. And this is what Fanon is saying, that if they cripple you with the promises of financial promises, then you are finished, because you always be bending down before them. And then you see this concept of colonialism going on. But if you want to achieve decolonization, we shall start with the violence that goes with the idea of the violence, of the intellectual violence, You should go with even the sustain yourself, even with the point of arms, actually, able to achieve this. Therefore, my dear people, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for giving me a listening ear, because towards the end, Fanon will say that the gain of violence is to achieve an integral humanism. What is humanism for Fanon? Humanism is not as defined by the Europeans. For Fanon, humanism is the reality where each individual is not defined by the other person, or each one lives in his own natural identity. No superiority complex, no inferiority complex, because these terms were designed and crafted by the Europeans, by the colonizers. For Fanon, humanism that will be the gain of violence is where each one lives in equality. No superior, no inferior, no bigger, no small, but all is equal. And if we are able to do this, we are able to attain a greater global world where peace and justice will reign. Thank you very much. And I thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anthony Chukwuemeka Okonkwo, for your wonderful presentation. And I believe everybody, of course, already wrote down some points, some questions, some contributions that we are going to be seeing now. Just shortly before we go to that, we have a little break, and I will show you the message of the GC, since we are many of us here now, so that we can get to know what he has to tell us.
My name is Anthony Aliakwe Odio, General Coordinator of Correct Connect Africa Foundation, CCAF. I bring you warm greetings from Lagos, Nigeria, to all the participants of this year's Sankova Political Studies, Season 4. In this season, we are focusing on 3 authors, 4 books, and 12 lessons. Each lesson has been given to capable hands for exposition and explanation, and we trust the presenters to do justice to the allotted topics. This is another opportunity to come close to our roots, the African roots, and to better equip ourselves with the knowledge that is African-based and African-oriented. This is Sankofanization. This is going back to our roots. Hotep.
Okay, once again, thank you, Dr. Antoine, for this wonderful presentation, talking about violence, the wretched, the lupins, decolonization, languages, and something like the language of decolonization being violence. And when violence succeeds, the gain is the arrival at humanism. Violence is the natural cause. So a lot of things, a lot of points that I think also may need clarification. So please, the floor is open. We have Agbara Michael, who has his hand up already. I don't know if you want to make your question or your contribution. Agbara Michael. Okay, maybe we'll get back to him.
I think it was okay. Sorry, thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a question, but it is more of a clarification, sir. When you are talking about the types of colonizers, you mentioned colonized workers, colonized intellectuals, and colonized lumpen, which are the Anawins. So, sir, please, my question is, just like I said before, is more of a clarification. Is it that when these colonizers came at first, they dwell more on carrying out this work of colonization in different stages, in the sense that they have workers that they tend to work with an intellectual that they have already brainwashed. So which means now to the part of the Anawins now, just like you said, they are regarded as the most useless. So now, in this line of colonization, what is the actual work of these lumpens, the Anawins? I just want to understand really what they are, what their impact is in terms of colonization. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. About Michael, if I'm not mistaken, you have asked a very nice question. And your question is just to go straight to that. No, it is not on stages. It is what I call, what I can call, according to Fanon, the classification at the moment. Just imagine in a community where we have somebody who claimed to come to colonize a community. You know, in a community of, let's say there are like 200 people there, and a so-called colonizer entered there to colonize them. That's what I use the word colonized, means those that have undergone this process of the colonizers. So dear, this person for sure will come with money. He will build a house that is different from the ones of the community. You know already how we face it in Africa, yeah? And when they build that house, you can see the house of a colonizer different from the house of the colonized. You know, you can see the hot mud houses. They will build the block. The person can come either as a priest or as anything, but you can see that he has the idea to show these people who he is. And once he comes there, what will he do? He has to maintain his house. He will take out of 200, 2 people. We call them gardeners. He will pay them monthly salary. He will have a driver. He will have a cook. He will take them from where? Among these people. You can see them working for the white man, working for the European, you know, and these people, they would do nothing. This is what Fanon called the colonized workers, the colonized workers, because they depend on the salary. They eat every month, they're giving some changes, and they carry this money. They see them also behaving like some. You see them even those days. You see them wearing even trousers, because the other people don't wear trousers. They will try to show different from their people. This is what Fanon called the workers. Then within that group also, there will be those that they will see maybe they have a good brain. Their brain is good, and these people that have come to colonize will say no. Instead of us going direct, let's take the children of this man, 2 or 3 of them, send them somewhere in England or somewhere in Europe to study their system of education, brainwash them, come back here. And then instead of the white man now, or the colonized, coming in front to present ideology, he will be using these people, you know, because they have been trained in the system of the colonized. So among them, these people now, there's the majority, those they call the lumpens. These are people that are neither workers, they didn't even go to school. They live the abject poverty, so-called abject poverty. And for the white man to keep on remaining relevant among this community, he has to be making use of the intellectuals. Because now, indirectly, as you see in many countries in Africa, my dear brother, that most of the things we are facing there is indirect colonization. And to achieve the colonization, Fanon call for violence. And who will do this? Fanon is saying that maybe cannot get it from the workers because they are claiming to be satisfied with the money that they paid. And then the second group here among this community, I mean now look at the community of Africa, for example. The people that are claimed are intellectuals. They have gone to England, Italy, they have gone to France because they are studied, and then they come back. They are being used against their people.
Very interesting. Yes, just because I know we have many questions, maybe to be brief also with the responses. We have Don Venance, and later there is Edward. Please, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I thank Professor Anthony Okonkwo for his presentation. The presentation was very, very clear. Thank you very much. I have a question, but let me first greet my friend Fidel Mark Nvi, who is following us from Niamey in Niger. I thank him for being with us this evening and for agreeing to present us the last lesson of this program. So thank you very much, Marc Fidel. Merci beaucoup. Merci d'avoir accepté l'invitation. So my question, Professor Anthony, I make it in Italian. I saw you speak very, very well Italian. Come you can translate in English. Come integrare questa riflessione di Franz Fanon sulla violenza, come integrare questa riflessione nel nostro modo di concepire e di pianificare oggi l'educazione e la formazione dei cittadini africani del XXI secolo. Ecco, questa è la mia domanda. Thank you very much.
Oh, grazie mille, il mio professore, anche il mio confratello, Don Banas. Sono contento di vederci stasera.
È un piacere reciproco.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, the one who has spoken is my professor and a very good brother, a man I respect very much. And the question he has asked is, how can we integrate the concept Fanon violence with the mode of our consciousness, which is in the education and formation in Africa? In fact, that is what we are doing this evening. I thank the coordinator, Anthony. I will not thank you enough. And your team, I thank Don Venance. When I was in Rome, I saw the good work you guys are doing. From far, I started to come near, but I saw that due to the work I have, I say I am strongly in support of this. So I may not be identified strongly with your group, but you know that I am inside me. I die for everything you are doing. I support you strongly. So the answer to what Professor Venance has asked is what the Correct Africa, the one that organizing this program, is doing. That is the answer, whereby we start conscientizing, even leaving the lumens, but we are that are called the intellectuals, to know why we are intellectuals. It's true, we can go to Europe to study, but are we able to have a synthesis of knowing what is correct and what's not correct? And know, why am I an African? Or is it when I'm able to memorize all these things no, synthesize it, bring it back to who you are. And then, because even some of if you go to Europe, most of the books, in fact, in my room here, there's a book written History of Africa by one man, John Smith. It's not the name is not an African name. So I have, and when I read this book, I laugh. I told the man, this is not me. So I have to go back to Europe. I will study in their system, but I have to come back and define who I am. That is what intellectuals are supposed to do. And I thank God that my great brothers, Joseph Kule, the names may not come now, Isaac Koko, Felix, Antonio Odio, Professor Venance, and the other people. I remember also my good brother, the one in my community I've forgotten, from Congo. He's not coming now. The professor in the Lettera Classica is not coming now.
Pascal, very good.
Pascal Mbote. These are the group, and also the other ladies. They are there in Europe, but they are creating this awareness. Other groups, you can see Pierre Mulumba when he speaks with passion that we need to go back to the roots, and this is Sankova. So the answer is Sankova, to go and take it from the roots, and that root is that we are human beings. And we have to tell the world that we have what it entails to be humans. They should not define humanity for us. Rather, we should even define them. And whenever we find ourselves in the educational system, to create ambience, to remind those that are coming that we are proudly Africans. I want to tell you, when I entered our post-novitiate here in Ibadan, I sorry to tell you, the only one course that is African philosophy, that is only probably a 3 credit course for the whole 3 years we have here. For the 3 years, for me, is an eyesore. I say over my dead body that under my watch, that will be cramming Socrates, Aristotle. Is good, no problem to cram these things. But we should ask, is there something that we have offered? And you know, Thales, for example, everything he said about water, he got it from Egypt. You know, so what is it that in Africa that we can offer the world? They have offered us their own. We have something to offer them. So I'm telling you now that we have courses in African philosophy. Different one, which also teaching African history to come the ideas. So also the first one. And I when I take dagger or God and kill you. No, silent means when there's a confrontation of arguments, whereby I bring we start antithesis, synthesis that is violent.
I think there is a kind of a network, a break in the network. Can you hear us? Okay. Now we can hear you.
I don't know what you heard last. I finished the question of Professor Venance.
Okay. Yes, thank you for your responses. We have 3 people now with their hands up. So we take the 3 questions immediately. So maybe you just put them down. Then you can respond to everything. Abbiamo 3 persone che sono alzate le mani, quindi prendiamo tutte e 3 domande, così cerchiamo anche il professore o chi vuole anche contribuire può rispondere subito. So we take the question of Edward, then after Edward, we take the question of Francis, then Dennis Kofise. So after these 3 questions, then we will listen to the responses. So we take the 3 questions at a time. Edward, you have the floor.
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Faria Anthony Chukwuemeka Okonkwo, for your elaborate explication of the book Wretched of the Earth. While making your exposition of the book, you came across the part that says that Fanon, for his own view, colonialism or violence is justified, morally justified. And there is a question that was asked by this great Black thinker, Walter Rodney. He says, by what standard of morality can the violence be used by a slave to break his chains, be considered the same as the violence of a slave master? And that thing, while you are making the explication, you talk about the Europeans making use of Africans, the African allies. They bring them, they train them, and then they use them against their own people. And it brings to me what I would call the colonial web, and the web of dependency. The web of dependency makes the African find himself in the chain, in the cycle that does not allow him to escape from the hand of the colonizer. So how do one who will claim that without any other thing, you say he does not need money to develop himself, to free himself, and then how does he liberate himself if he finds himself in the situation whereby he is constantly being used to exploit his own people? Like there's a kind of chain of a hierarchical chain that is being controlled every now and then by the superior on top, from the explication given.
Okay, thank you. We take the question of Dennis Kofise.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. J'aimerais tout d'abord saluer tout le monde. Bonsoir. Bonsoir au père Venance. Good evening to all my English people. My question is, how can we apply the teachings of Franz Fanon today in our current situation in Africa? How can we apply that? The presenter made mention of NSAS, but we saw how the whole thing ended. How can we use the violence to transform our current political situation in Africa? Thank you.
Thank you for that wonderful question. We have Francis. You can have your question, Francis.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. And thank you, sir, for the wonderful presentation. My question goes like this. From your presentation, you said the writer justified violence, and from the classification of different persons who are being colonized, the last group seems to be the one that suffer in the hands of the colonizers. And it also seems that this same model of colonization is what our current government is also being adopted and used against the people. Like this last group of the people are those who the prison yards have been built for, the police and the army, to keep suppressing these persons. It may not necessarily mean that those who are the cooks and the intellectuals are comfortable. Just being comfortable is enough for them not to, come into that struggle. It could also be they are afraid because of they see the forces that is being used on this last group of people. And they also see that they go to prisons, they get killed. We see that all over Africa. This same model is being adopted. So my question is, how do we, as a people, come to terms with the knowledge that we need each other, and how do we help this last group of people not to end up in prisons or being brutalized or get killed for the struggle of every humanity, especially in Africa? That is my question.
Thank you for the questions. You have the floor, Professor.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Edward, Dennis, and Francis. Your questions have been, I've gone through them, and they are all intertwined. There is a connectivity between all the three questions you have asked. And I just, to save the time, I'll just go straight to the one of Edward to tell him that yes, their violence is morally justified according to Fanon, because for him, violence is part of human nature. The colonized lived it. Colonizers also lived it, because we're all human beings, and it manifests in different forms. Look at and even from the mind, the liberation of the mind. Whenever you're able to ask a question, who am I? I want to break these genes of what I've been told for long. That this is how we're supposed to be able to. If you don't speak English, well, you're not educated. If you speak your language of your people, they see you as illiterate. No. Once you're able to do this, you are doing violence to your mind. This is one of them. So create the awareness that there is a problem. There is a problem, my brother. And if we're able to realize this and confront it, first of all, the awareness is already a way forward. It's okay? It is this awareness that Connect Africa is doing through this process. I tell you, nobody who passes through this program will remain the same. You can testify that. You were once with me here in Ibadan, and you saw how we are taking the great goods of Connect Africa, and you see how it's helping our students here in Ibadan in one way or the other. To go straight to the question of Dennis regarding the violence and the NSAS. According to me, I feel that the people that went for the NSAS in Nigeria, they were not prepared well. And this remains the problem we are facing today in Africa, till we break the chains of economy. Somebody is fighting for something, a just cause. When you are giving you 7 petroleum well, oil well, promise you 70 billion, then you live here just. This is not the correct way. So how to achieve Fanon's concept in Africa is to be authentic. Look at EFF, man, we have in South Africa, Malema. Look at PLO, Mulumba. Look at even great authors we have. The other time, there is Diop book we are reading here in our institute here. It's okay. This is a way to remind people, yes, my brother, money is important, but money is not everything. Development is not only money. I still say this. And the one problem we have today in Africa is that we want to be like Europeans. And these people we want to be like, by the time you reach where they are, they have given you 10 years. You can never reach them because they are developing in their own pace. Create your own way of development. If the Europeans are building a railway, can you be very truthful to that part, even if you can even do away with the road and look at something else that will make your people realize their humanity? You don't need to be saying we must, because when you reach what they have done, they have gone extra 10 miles. So you keep on running after them. And once you keep running after people, you are still behind. So in that case, sit down, look for a way to develop yourself and the people around you. When I give myself an example, when people say no, till you build 7 mansions, then you know they are developing. I told them no, I don't want that type of development. What am I doing in this school here? I try to empower my brothers to remind them that they are religious, true, yes, but Africans. You may go to Europe, you see schools there, they have skyscraper, what they call it. It may not be my interest. If I have the money, I do those. But my concern is to look for my own development in my own way. And then coming to the last question of Dennis regarding the lumens, how do they need to be conscientized? Yes, as I said, this program we are doing, so also a way to help them dissect this program. Who hears, tell others, okay? But more importantly, how to help the lumens, because you know they are, in a way, they have been they claim defeated by these people, is to make the intellectuals and workers realize who they are. That's what we call conversion of identity. You know, it's okay. Some people who may have been intellectuals, but they think that because they're able to dine on the table of the colonizers, they're okay because nothing they lack. Workers who are there enjoying the benefit of the colonizers, they are promised every year some money. They are doing this and that. They are called this and that. They are sent for free visits everywhere in Europe. All these things, they will think that they're okay. They need to make what we call conversion of consciousness. And once they do this, they were able to help, able to come back and join these lumens who need the support of the, look at Malema. Malema trying to fight for the land without compensation in South Africa is alone with the EFF party, and he's fighting these giants, and he's conscientizing the common people, and that is what we need today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor, for this wonderful response. We have Darli Fopa, if I'm not mistaken. He has a question, and after that, Chimezie, you can send in your question and I will read it out. Okay, you have the floor.
Okay, good evening to each one. I thank the professor for his brilliant presentation, and I have a quick question for clarification. I think that one of the participants have been asked the question already, but I want some element of clarification. What does the violence of which Fanon speak as the very language of the decolonization actually consist? I mean, does this spell out a procedure? Because we know that violence in general can go in all directions. And today in Africa, I think we should speak about a double colonization. The first one, I can call it the Western neocolonialism, and another form of colonization that we should call African colonization or Afro-African colonization practiced by those whom Zwa Obama is a professor of Université Catholique d'Afrique Centrale. Zwa Obama calls them auxiliary of the colonization. Then that's why I asked to know, what does the violence, that language actually consist, the language of violence, the procedure. Thank you. I think you get the question. Thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, please, I will just add one more question. The
Yeah.
question is coming from Chimeze Joseph, and it says, please, can the prof clarify this concept of violence in regard to when Fanon wrote the book and how far we have reached as people? Better still, is this violence still relevant in our today's world when we have intellectual tools at our disposal? That is a question from Chimeze Joseph.
Okay. This book, thank you very much. Thank you very much. The people that have asked questions, my dear brothers, thank you. This book, as you know, the wretched of the earth. The book is big, but I just presented the chapter on concerning the violence. From 1961, this period is a period that most Africans are just gotten their independence, so-called independence from their colonial masters. Either they have gotten, or they are just, for example, people like Nigeria, just 1 year, or they are still struggling, or they're just coming out. So there is still this issue. And yes, it's still relevant today, because you see the effect of what has happened that time still happening. All of us are, most of us in today, we are Africans, you know it, in every part of our continent, you see it happening, either direct or indirect. But there's one thing I want to tell you, my dear brothers and sisters, is the concept of violence. Let us not mistaken this word violence in our day-to-day world as we know. If you want to understand this is one of the words that enjoys, we have in Latin, Greek, this word environment. These are words that enjoy both Latin and Greek connection. Because first of all, the word we're using is not our own word. So let us understand this word. It is, violence actually is a connotation of ends. As you know, the being, as we know, some of us first of all, you know what is ends. That is the being, the Greek concept. And then via, it is the way, that is the being who is on the way, violence. So the being is on the way, that's what it consists. Affirm who you are on the way. Don't beat about the bush. So to be violent means to stand to that which you believe. To be authentic, that's what it consists. To tell the person before you that yes, you are, but I am also. So, and what I need from you is to affirm yourself as I affirm myself. You don't need to affirm me. So you don't come and lord it over me because you think you have more power, maybe with money, or you claim that you have civilization. No. So who can do this? This is the question. To be violent doesn't mean if he even demands carrying arms, my brother. Because the concept is to make the one before you to realize that you are somebody. You are not just something, you are somebody. Because you're on your way. The being who is on the way, VLNC, you are on your way. And that is the anything that is now entailing around you to let the one or the group of people who think that you are nobody to realize that you are somebody. Any means you use, as long as you clear the way to affirm yourself. So this again, there's one question somebody has written, and just in line with what you have asked, is this idea of sometimes our brothers have become worse than the colonizers. This is what we are saying. Because the danger here are the intellectuals, and I keep emphasizing on that, and then likely the workers. But the intellectuals are the ones who will come. They are blacks, but they claim that they're white inside. Even Fanon, even if I have finished what I was read everything, you see that even Fanon that among the colonizers, these guys do not even belong. I remember, I want to give you an example before, just very sharp example. One day I was traveling at the airport. We were going for a meeting somewhere, one of the countries in my province, and we are there to use the flight. There was an European and another person from Latin America and myself. So the police stopped this man from Latin America, telling that your country is to let us check you very well. So the white man there was telling me, you see, he claims that he's one of us, but he's not one of us. So this thing is already now. Look at the thinking of these people. So you think that because you have been sent to, maybe you know how to speak English or speak French or speak Italian or anything. So you claim that you don't belong. And when the time comes, they will remind you when they use you to achieve the aim. And this is why most of our brothers are worse, because they are giving promises and they start following it over our brothers. They'll be there laughing at you. Say, see them fighting. So you see somebody now, look at some countries in Africa, they are fighting each other. And these people are just saying, look at it. Remember the speech of Donald Trump when he talked about Africa. Today we had our declaration, and one of our brothers declaimed on these statements that he said that just give, you want to achieve, give Africans, just give small money. And you see them fighting over themselves. We can able to solve this problem through this process, what we are doing this evening. Thank you, Connect Africa. I will ever thank you and all the similar organizations that are also sharing the same spirit that you are doing to the intellectuals, because actually you're addressing us. Probably the Anawim, the Lumpen is there, maybe in Islam of Ajegunle, struggling. Now, no light there, no internet. Now look at me. Look at, I have almost 4 internet computers around me. They call me doctor, professor. I have students. What do I do them? What do I teach them? Because tomorrow they will meet this Anawims. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It has been a wonderful presentation. And somehow you already entered that which is the last question. And I don't know if anybody has anything to say before we ask you the last question.
Yeah, there's something that I would like to ask.
Okay. Please go ahead.
Okay, I just want to clarify from the prof, if the very act of survivor is for Fanon violence.
Thank you, Anthony. Alepun. Yes. Yes. Because the human nature, Fanon emphasizes that violence is inevitable. So to survive, in this case, is no more interested at the colonizers, because Fanon is targeting humanism to attain humanism of equality. That is the target. And to arrive there, the way of survival, we have to reach there. That is what we mean by survival here. So human nature must survive. And whom is he advising here? The colonized. That is, in this case, We that have been passed through the experiences of these so-called colonizers. So for us to survive and to maintain our survival is to decolonize this idea of decolonization. And this argument is that for us to achieve decolonization, we must achieve it through violence. So in this way, logically, it will be that survival will be through violence. No matter any way you want to take it, you want to approach it, but the word still remain, the denominator there is violence. And it is the best way. It is the best way because it is part and parcel of our human nature. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, there are some questions there that I think maybe it's just enough to read and see if there are one coming from Edward. I don't know if it's actually going to say, can chaos bring about harmony? How plausible it is? Then there is Fidel Mark saying, is this way of fighting against colonialism proposed by Franz still actual against the neo-colonialism challenges in Africa? And he says, thank you, Prof.
Yes.
Thank you, please, sir.
Yeah, Kule, thank you. Actually, somebody who said that harmony comes from chaos. It's true.
Yeah, that's my question I was asking.
Somebody, yes, I got your question, brother. That's why even some people like even the so-called European Greek philosopher Heraclitus will talk about the same. That a fire. Now, brothers, let me tell you one thing, and sisters. Let me tell you one thing. Sometimes, do you know that every civilization cannot come without war? The Latin people, they call it bellum. Yes, okay. But tell me any civilization, the so-called colonizers, I said it before, they lived violence in any way, be it carrying gun, any way, be it writing books, be it any way you can use to assert yourself is violent. And remember that everything they were able to do, look at all the empires they have built in their own side, they're all achieved through war. When I mean war here, I want to remind that even often I've been telling my students here that war, as you know, has a rule, you know, because the humanity civilization is purified through war. You talk, you say, okay, we are Christians, we are Catholics. No, forget about these ones. Let us look at history and look at civilization. Tell me any civilization that has been achieved without war. Call it violence or call it a conflict, because that is a war purification. And this law has to, for example, I have been saying it, for example, one of the rules for wars must maintain that you don't attack women or children. Any war that targets children or women is not more a war. It doesn't respect war. Even the Catholic Christian people, there's the Augustine thought of just war. It's to remind you that it is in the consciousness of people that there must be a conflict to arrive at a harmony. If we want to achieve the liberal consciousness, freedom, true freedom in Africa, we cannot do away with violence, be it in any way. That is the fact, my dear brothers. That is the fact. So I'm here to present the philosophy, the chapter of Franz Fanon. And I want to maintain his spirit and use every argument to support this man, because he saw it and he wrote it. And what he wrote, he saw the experiences, as I said before, 1961, you know, most African countries. He didn't only, remember, not only the Africans, he was talking about those who have passed through the so-called colonized. Think about it in any globe. But the concept is that to achieve decolonization, we have to embark the language that this particular history must hear to arrive at this colonization is through violence. And I've explained to you the root word of this word, violence, and what it consists. To let the one before you who is making you to feel that you are inferior, that you are weak, know that you know we are all equal. And this is integral humanity for Fanon.
Thank you very much. The questions are not yet over. We have two people ready to talk. We have Felix Olamide and Agama Isaac. So we take the two questions together, starting from Felix.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Prof, for your input. I have a contribution and then a question. The contribution also is not to support what Father Antoine has been saying, and also to note, that the colonists, those who colonize people in his own day, like Father said, those who were just getting their independence or were about to get, and in our own days, Fanon mentioned them and termed them the demagogues. And demagogues for him, they are the political leaders who use exploitation and prejudice to rule people. And I think the reality of Africa today is not far from that. And violence now for him as a means, and this particular book came after his first major book of Black Skin, White Mask, that we have exposed. It's a way now to come away from that dependency or European influence. So violence for him is a way now to come out, as we have said. So it is anything that is violent is to be responded with violence. I mean, you cannot see somebody who is peaceful and come to you through dialogue, and you want to go with violence. Fanon doesn't talk about that. He does not even encourage that. But what talk of exploitation and prejudice, especially the demagogues, our present day politicians, we need to reclaim that is for us through the means that they came, which is normally violence. So that which is violent only responds to violence. My question now is this, Father Antoine, given the life of Fanon and his books and what we have read, and the text that he has for all these European influences, supremacy, and the likes, and given the impact religion has on Africa and the close relationship between religion, Western religion, in this case, Christianity and Islam, and politics in Africa. And since most of us, we are either at least identified with either Christian or Islam, and in theory, their faith goes against violence. How do we, like others have asked, even though we say we should respond, how do we now try to still communicate, like you said, given the etymology of violence, bringing the being on the way, to still be able to present ourselves and not contradict the faith, knowing how important the faith and the religion is to our African people. I don't know if my question is clear. Thank you.
Yes, my brother. Thank you.
Prof, can we take one more question so that you can respond at a time?
Yes,
okay.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
We have Agama Isaac. Isaac, you have the floor. Agama Isaac.
All right, thank you very much, Prof, for giving us this opportunity to understand some basic things about our lives and about our environment. So I'm very, very grateful for this opportunity. Well, my question goes like this. Don't you think people will tend to take advantage of this violence, and most especially the young people? Don't you think they'll be at the most end, like the victimized? Because our political leaders and the people in higher authorities, they'll tend to take advantage of this, and more especially the young people, and to achieve whatever they want for themselves. But speaking on this, don't you think it's going to affect our young people, going to affect the youth of this noble country? or in Africa at large? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, there's the last question from Chimezie Joseph. If you can just give that question, then Father Anthony, you can answer every of the questions. Chimezie.
Okay, Chimezie.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, please.
My question is linked to the that of Agama Isaac. I'm a man of a practicality, you know, a man of practicality. You see, I'm looking at this, the word, that violence is sounding too strong for me. Yes, this is what the writer has said. And I well understand you when you said that there has never been any civilization that has been achieved without violence, be it intellectual violence, be it, I don't know, whichever violence we are referring to. But now, if in the case of this violence now, you know, is it not the case that it is these same Anna whims that we are talking about that will misinterpret this same concept of violence, or better still, is it not, are they, these Anna whims, are they not the one that will be at the receiving end? Let me give you an instance. You mentioned it during your presentation, like that Lekki to boot. You see, most of the people that suffered, or most of the people that were meted out those violence, were the same, those Anna whims. So what I'm trying to drive at is this: how are we able to explain now this violence to the same Anna whims, in order not for them to now misinterpret this whole concept of violence? I don't know if I'm trying to be practicality. So, Father Prof, can you please, you know, throw more light on this?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me start with, there's one person that just wrote a message here talking about the idea of neo-colonialism and colonialism. He was asking whether actually are we still in neo-colonialism. What is neo here? Neo-natus, you know already very well what is happening here. That we have what people who live the spirit of the concepts. We talk about neo-Thomism, talk about neo-Aristotelianism, we talk about neo-Kantianism, those who resurrect the spirit. And I still tell you, my brother, I think is from Mark, that yes, neo-colonialism is still happening in Africa or any part of the world in these different forms. And is targeted again to live the spirit of superiority and inferiority. That is the fact. Let us not hide under the, maybe say that, you know, sometimes we try to cover the wound. Let us open this plaster and tell ourselves that there is a problem. And this problem is some people are coming to lord it over the other. I'm not calling that in the spirit of Fanon to say that every time you carry gun. But I didn't say that. Actually, what the Sankova they're doing is a violent program. But have you seen them carrying gun? Have you seen them carrying machine gun? Because they want to liberate the mind. And when to liberate the mind, there must be crisis. To convert from one end to the other, there must be changes. The water must be disturbed. And this is actually violent. Even the Bible said it. I don't know how, I'm not very scholarly in this Bible thing. But you know already the idea of the kingdom of God is always violent. I don't know. You can go and read it and see, literally. But what I want to emphasize here, my dear brothers and sisters, is that when there is a problem, we have to confront a problem with any means to make, because already the human nature is already down. So you don't need to cut it. Let us, no problem. No, pour it cream. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. For that, look at Nigeria. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Look at where we are heading. Now, let me come to my dear brother, great brother, indeed, a brother indeed. I respect very well. Chimezie. Actually, from the voice, I came to know him, and I didn't know his name also, Chimezie, but from the voice, I know I'm talking to. Was again Joseph. Now, Yes, my brother, you are very practical. that the lupins, the Anna whims are passing through. They are afraid that they will be there at the receiving end. But the issue here is this: the work of the intellectuals is to look for the right means at the right time. The question we should ask ourselves is the issue of NSAS. Actually, how did it begin? How did it end? What are the processes? Again, you find out that who are the people that were used against the people? These are still the police, as somebody said here, the military. Who are this military? Are they Europeans? Are they not our people? By the way, who sent them? Are they Europeans? No. Whom are they reacting to? Are they Europeans? No. So what I'm saying is that every nook and cranny of our history must be conscientized. As we conscientize the Anna wings, we conscientize the intellectuals, we conscientize also the workers. Workers here, be it the politicians, be it the military, be it the soldiers, any person. Because all of us are suffering. I have a friend of mine who lives near my house, a policeman. He has not been paid 7 months salary. And tomorrow they will give him gun to go and stop protest. This protest, if you realize it, is for who? For good of everybody. So that's where the work of the intellectuals are there. The critical minds who will think of the right method to use at the right time. So I still insist that this concept of the answers, for me, was not prepared very well. And that's why you see what has happened. Some people were giving money at everything after killing people. But you go to organized places where people have demonstrated, including India, people can even accept to lay that trailer or train crush us because we are dying for our future. We are dying for our children. When people are convinced of this, though, yes, life may be lost, yes, but it's for freedom. My brother, let me, as I said, about people who take advantage of violence. Yes, depends the type of violence you talk about. Even the peace you may be thinking about, people also take advantage of it. Even tranquility, even joy, anything. Hey, people take advantage of it. This is why we are humans. But you don't say because there is because of one thing you give up all that to freedom is maintained. Go to some countries that have faced this idea of facing it for the future of their generation. See how people have died to gain freedom for the future. Okay, let's this one now will lead me to question of Felix. The matters we have in the church, the matters, for example, what did they die for? What did they die for? They die for the future of the church. Is this they die for? So whether blood, anything, even Jesus Christ died for us. Somebody must give out something for the good of the future. No? So it is when we start to say, no, I'm afraid of this, afraid of this. You see, these people keep on perpetuating these ideas. You know, so in any way you want to call it violent, for me, as I said, I don't call for idea of violence of carrying gun, but if it calls for, no problem. But I'm calling for intellectual violence, whereby we start changing our way of thinking, of looking at ourselves. Because once you're on the way as a being, you affirm yourself as a proper Africans. That's in line with what, so people take advantage, Agama, as you said, Agama, you said about that, people will take advantage, it's true. People will take it because those people that take advantage, they see it as an opportunity. But you know that still, after this, authenticity will come. You know, so it's okay in everything, even in the religious life we are living. People take advantage of it, but that doesn't mean you cannot find people who are authentic. And these people, when they come out, you see changes. Whoever thought that Malema will stand up to ask a question about land? Because you know why he's fighting in South Africa? Because with that land, you can even get everything. They give you car, give you water, anything. But with that land, you have no dignity. Because land is a symbol of dignity. And that's why he's fighting for this. At least he's asking the question in the parliament. This is already a violence he's fighting for. It's okay? the so-called Mahatma Gandhi, this non-violent process is already violent. Because for him to accept to start the road without eating for 30 days, this is a violent way of reacting. So everything you want to, we're just playing with word here. It's okay. The point is that people must react as a word, and to react to injustice is violent, and that is the idea. Let me respond to my dear brother Felix concerning the Christianity, Islam, and the politics. From the police, the people, everybody is a politician. So don't think that politicians are those that join party and then start to embezzle it. No, everybody by nature is a police. It's okay. We live in a city. That's why the idea of police, those who also to take care of the people in the city. So okay, by nature, we are all political beings. As even Aristotle will talk about that. But what I want to say here is that he said, how can we bring our faith in relation to this? But let us look at our country, Nigeria. Remember when they started kidnapping the Catholic priest and all the killings, they killed in the Sokoto diocese, I think, all these things. The Bishops' Conference of Nigeria, for example, they had a march, protest. What is it? It's to tell people who are doing this that what they're doing is bad. That is violent. So when you stand up and tell the one before you, now you are not doing it well, that is violent. So don't expect that because you are a Christian, you are religious, you have a faith. No. In fact, even Christian faith is able to sustain today in Africa because of the violent way we have lived it. Okay? Look at Uganda. See the matters of Uganda, the Anglicans and the Catholics, people that we are killed because of the faith. It's also they stood their ground. They told those before them, no, this is not how it should be. This is I want to assert myself. My brother, it will take life for sure. It will take misunderstanding, and even take people even fighting you. Even as I said before, even your fellow brothers and sisters can even fight you, even from your same household, they will fight you. But who is the autos tenere, the one who holds himself to stand firm and say, yes, I am. No matter everything, I affirm myself as a human being. As a human being. That is the humanity Fanon is targeting, that he concluded this chapter on violence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It has been a wonderful day with a lot of input and a lot of information. So we would like to continue ad infinitum, but of course, we'll have to bring it to an end just for today. And if I don't know if we have any information, any announcement from any department so that we can also, before we conclude, we greet everybody who have participated from every part of the world.
The last question that has to go to the prof himself.
Yeah, that will come after all the, and with that we close. So
okay, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Kule.
Yes.
I would want to ask to Fidel Mark if he has something to say as he present the last lesson of the program. I don't know if he has something to say. But, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Farah. Hello, everyone. I would just like to thank you for this initiative. This is very great for Africans of our period to know about what was done for the African liberty and know how to proceed now to face the different challenges that we are facing all over the continent. So great initiative, and then all my full support to this initiative. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Merci.
Wow,
thank you very much.
Welcome.
Denis, je te salue depuis le Nigeria.
Je vous salue aussi, mon père.
So also I want to join my voice with the last speaker, Mark, in thanking the organizers and for finding me worthy to share my little knowledge with the commitments I have here. And I want to apologize for when I started the presentation, the problem of PowerPoint, but you know, all these technical things. But I have my hard copy with me. That's why I never, but you know, all these technical things. But thank you very much. Thank you very much. Please, in any way, we keep on cooperating as an institute here with the Correct Africa. I'm always available because you have taken a right position, and you are offering the humanity what we need, especially the Africans. So thank you, Kunle. Thank you, Professor Venance. Thank you, Anthony Alekwe, Audio. We're just 2 hours different, I mean, where you are. So we'll be seeing now and then every time to discuss things. And thank you for carrying this great task ahead. I pray that the God will continue to be with you all and sustain you and able to realize this great reality that is happening today in our life. Thank you.
Okay, I will ask you the last question in 2 sentences, then after that I'll give information. So after all this elaboration, talking, reflections, reading, preparing PowerPoints, everything, what has remained with you as a person? Anthony Chukwuemeka Okonkwo, what has remained with you?
I am an African, and I assert it. And anyone who comes to remind me that I am not indifferent to, I remind you that I am an African. Thank you. And it begins from the consciousness, from the mind, the ideology. To get it right from the mind, start manifesting. And this good news I share with my, I don't know whether some of my students might have, I told them about this and I've shared the link to them, but because of we have exceeded the time, and most of these people are from the same.
No, we are here.
I know you are there, but you know the number because of the 10:30, so the order. But I know that most of them are here to follow this great initiative of the Connect Africa. And tomorrow I'll also tell them in the classes that anytime there is occasions like this, it's good to participate. Okay, so thank you very much. And as I said to Kunle, my brother, that let us assert ourselves. Let us assert ourselves. If we don't get it well in the mind, as Julius Nyerere will talk about it in his Ojama, that you can see maybe because opportunity has not come, we can see between the Africans, when opportunity comes, can even become like intellectual, can even work out, or even the look ben, you know, I mean, can even become intellectual, especially. So let us fight this by our way of life and make others also to enjoy why we are intellectuals. Let them get the benefit of why we are African and are intellectuals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And from our part, we give also few information about what is to come. Next appointment for Sankova Political Studies is going to be on the 15th of December. The 15th of December. And the presenter, the lecturer, is going to be Henrietta Oladapo. Henrietta Oladapo. She has masters in African studies, African history. So she's going to present, and we really long to hear from Henrietta. Another information is the 3rd edition of Sankova Youth Journal will be launched on the 11th of December. So the invitation will be sent to each and every one of you, and we ask you to also invite every other person to participate. So it's going to be a wonderful occasion to continue this part of a way of becoming aware of who we are, the journey to take, and what to do through these intellectual forms and many other forms. We remember that for us, Correct Connect Africa, the main key is education, the right way, to educate one in the right way. So please, you are all invited to participate at the launching of the Sankova Youth Journal. And we make you also to be aware that, of course, we're always open to your contributions in many fronts, through your articles, your well-researched and documented articles, or in any other means also by also supporting the Sankova Youth Journal. Thank you very much. And I know some people might want to say something, but we also have to conclude. And we thank you for all those who have participated. And if there's any other further information, we will get across to you. Thank you very much. And for Sankova Political Studies, see you on the 15th of December. But before then, there is the launching of the Sankova Youth Journal on the 11th of December. Thank you, everybody. And from this side, I say, Hotep.
Hotep. Frederica.
Hotep.
Frederica.
Thank you.
Está a partir do Tigari.
A partir de... Oh, mamma mia, vraiment.